So we're going to slide right into our next session now. We're going to be talking about location-based ad targeting. We've been alluding to this session the entire conference. The opening analyst session we did, I talked about and hit upon a lot of the points that we're going to now drill down on in this session. And I've heard mobile and location targeting mentioned in almost every session of this entire conference. So now is our opportunity to really give some examples of what we're talking about and best practices and things like that.
So I'm Dan. I run our platform for xAd, and we're a location mobile platform live in now officially 8 countries. We just launched Japan this week, actually.
So a good way to talk about what xAd does is to really illustrate it. So your most recent product is called Blueprints. And it builds on something you launched last year, which is called Footprints, as kind of the origin data set. Those two work in tandem in really interesting ways to give you a good picture of user behavior, spatial type of stuff that really helps you to craft campaigns in ways that are going towards that just high level of accuracy.
Yeah, so Footprints, as you mentioned, we launched last year, and it was really about showing what data actually looks like. What does big data look like? We've talked about it for a number of years. We actually wanted to show it. And when we launched Footprints, working with some of our major brands that we work with, we were noticing anomalies in case of we're seeing impressions for stores that are closed. You would expect that a big box retailer that is closed at 10 o'clock at night, you're not going to see ad impressions coming in at 2 in the morning, maybe 1 or 2 from the janitor. But you wouldn't expect to see many coming in. And when we started looking at what that actually was doing, so this is Footprints that's showing real-time ad impression requests and places that people are in, we looked at why we were getting ad impressions. And ultimately, we realized there was an issue with POIs and the addresses thereof. And we, like everybody else, I think, in the industry, were using street addresses as the point of origin for which we were going to target. Seems logical. And we realized that we were building, fences. Ours might be a little bit smarter than others of what we try to do. The street address, by definition, is on the street. And usually, especially a big box retailer, is going to be set back a pretty good distance.
Or a car dealer lot.
Or a car dealer lot. And the size of that, obviously, could be order of magnitude difference. And we realized that we had to have a way of understanding somebody was actually in a building, and how were we going to do that? And so we've launched this officially. We filed the patents for it about 5 weeks ago. And it's using satellite imagery technology where we can actually footprint the actual building and do that at scale. So now we can do that for about 80% through just science and algorithm on a global basis. And then how do I know somebody's on a parking lot? How do I actually fence that? So we had to create a way of making polygons on the fly to be able to do that. And we've actually hired blueprint editors, as we're calling them, to actually do this for the top 350 brands. And then a larger scale of the retail block. If you're a big box retailer, who wants to target people that are in that store? It might be them, it might be a competitor, it might be a CPG company. If they're on the parking lot, you might want to get them to come in. If they're in the retail block, they might be sitting over at a QSR and want to walk over to your store. So thinking about kind of those 3 steps is what we built with Blueprints.
It brings to mind, too, something like a strip mall where the difference between one storefront and another is a matter of feet. And it's interesting, too, that most people talk about the Holy Grail being that kind of GPS reading. And you've taken it a step further than that. It's not just a string of numbers that represent a GPS. It's overlaying some context with the actual place data, and even beyond just place data, these types of situations where it might be the spatial nuances of a particular business. So very interesting. Who do you kind of target, or whom do you target as the kind of end user as this? Is this kind of brand managers or agencies or the different types of folks you're working with?
Yeah, so we're actually working on a self-serve platform that we're going to roll out in alpha mode next month. And it's really designed very Google-esque, brand specific end user. So we don't want to build what agencies or typical buyers have been asking for, because very similar when the iPhone was first created, if you asked users what they wanted tactile keyboard. They didn't know what they didn't know. And so when you think about location and buying things on a location basis, very different than obviously buying local and buying specific locations. What does that actually look like? So we're building it for brands in mind, end users, SMBs in mind, then rolled up for agencies or partners that are working on their behalf. But we want it to be very user friendly and not ad tech.
Yep.
We're trying to take the mystery out of, the black box and have it as visual as we possibly can.
I like that. It is very visually appealing. It looks like a video game. Now, let's talk about the accuracy of the location impression, which a lot of this is based on.
Sure.
Assuming those are all accurate, and,
Yep.
and throughout the industry, of course, that's a pervasive problem. What are you guys doing different for the getting the right reading?
Yeah, and for us, it's and Heather mentioned it, from Telenav. It's very, very similar. It's all about scale, and it's about understanding user patterns. How do you understand derived lat long from actual lat long? How do you get accuracy? And we can talk different decimal percentages all day long. But it's really about how do you get a probabilistic model to understand that somebody is more likely to be here than there. And because of us focusing on location, it's about massive scale.
Yep.
And this wasn't possible 3 years ago.
Sure.
Nobody could have done it at any credible factor. The IDFA changed that. The Google ID has changed that. And if we see, this ID says you're, at 123 Main Street, and 30 seconds later it says you're 5 miles away, well, obviously one of those is wrong. How do you start understanding the nuance of that? And so that's really what we built in our tech, is really to understand that at massive scale, not believing publishers, very similar scoring methodology as others out there, but it's tying the location verification with the places. That's really what the secret sauce is.
Sure, and one of the ways to get accurate location, among many, is the opt-in at the app layer.
Sure.
Within iOS, you often see this app would like to use your location. A certain amount of people will opt in for that, and that's great. You have the very precise GPS reading. When you don't have that, you resort to other ways. But you guys actually have an advantage in that your publisher network contains a lot of apps and things for which location is already in context. So the comfort levels for a lot of the people using those apps are probably opting in more so than a generally defined larger ad network. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, it certainly is. And we work with, I think we're now in 34,000 apps.
Yeah.
It's all about the scale. And you're going to have, and I think what you're seeing now, and iOS 8 now reminding people that, hey, this app
Sure.
is using your location. I think it's giving pause to consumers if they're not getting something as an added benefit.
There you go.
And if it's simply about monetization, it's probably not going to be long term.
Sure.
So really the content, the context of the type of application is going to become more and more paramount of, are you providing value add to the consumer of why they're sharing your location? And we are especially from an internet digital perspective, we don't want to pay for content.
Right.
We expect content to be free, and that
Right.
cost is really the advertising.
Now, one of the things you guys also have kind of planted a stake and are doing a good job communicating in the industry is, and I spoke about this the other day, using location not just as a targeting parameter at a campaign level, but also as a tracking medium to overall develop user profiles, which can be used in an ongoing way by advertisers that want to target certain user groups. So tell us about the art of audience targeting.
Yeah. And that's really where Blueprints came from, is when it's one thing about saying, hey, I want to target a 1 mile radius of a auto dealer or 10 mile. We could argue all day long about the efficacies of radius targeting. But if you're creating a profile of a user based on where they go, you need to know that they went into that Walmart, they went into that Burger King, they went into that Starbucks, not that they drove by it.
Yep.
And that's where we started noticing that this is a very big issue in the industry, is a lot of people are building profiles based on inaccurate information. It's kind of garbage in, garbage out. And we philosophically have been asked to license our data to people for audience profiling. And we feel fundamentally stripping the data from the media, if you have good data, bad location, media, it doesn't work. If you have good location, bad data, it doesn't work. It really needs to be compiled together. And so what we're doing is trying to provide as much of that data in the actual ad impression request. So people who are working with us programmatically can decision on it in real time. This lat long happens to correspond to this city, state, zip 4, because a lot of traditional DSPs that were built for desktop in nature and can't read location. But it also corresponds to this QSR, and it's a Burger King, and this person is a luxury shopper because we know some of the other places they've been. So how do we layer more and more information into the actual bid request so that people can decide who they want to target and why?
Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense for brands which traditionally want to target different user groups, but also that also brings you guys to occupy a broader portion of the overall purchase funnel, because you're doing that type of stuff, which is, it resonates in a branding context, but also the lower funnel stuff, the direct response stuff. And this brings up a study that you guys did recently, or part of a study, which I always find interesting. In really kind of, we're all in kind of a click-centric mindset, especially people coming over from the desktop. And this really points out that sometimes looking at clicks can give a wrong impression of actual performance. Campaign 1, the blue triangles, actually performed well on a click basis, but not so much on a store visit basis. Conversely, campaign 3 was the opposite. So if someone was just looking at clicks, you're getting a bad reading.
Yes.
So tell us about the importance of not only driving those, more conversion-centric types of actions, but also measuring them correctly.
Yeah, and we actually came out with a program late last year, which we called Kill the Click.
Right.
Because the click methodology is, there's lots of ways to influence click-through rates. And in mobile, I think everyone talks about the fat finger syndrome. You're trying to click on something, you had no intention on clicking on the ad. So what are you building metrics on? And clicks, again, where you put that content, what type of app it's on. Are kids clicking on, ads because they're trying to get back to the game that they're playing? There's lots of different things that are going to influence click-through rates. But what you want to focus on, or at least in our opinion, is focusing on measurable actions. And for a lot of small businesses, they don't have the density to do panel-based store visitation lift studies, which are more designed for national advertisers. But things like phone calls, things like maps and driving directions, things like coupons that are downloaded, that are really beyond the clicks, because small businesses don't care about clicks. Big agencies still measure a lot of things on clicks, and we're trying to move that industry forward and working more with brands directly to understand what you should be measuring. And at the end of the day, if you are a big box retailer, do you really care if someone clicked on your ad, or do you care that somebody walked into your store?
Absolutely.